Hi everyone and welcome to today's Dev Q&A video. We got so many questions, almost 200 questions when I put up the notice over on Discord. So what we've actually decided to do is to kind of group those questions together and rank them in terms of importance. So we've got a bunch of themes that we're going to talk about. You'll already have seen down below that this is a super long video. I mean, I know once Axel and I get going talking about Fellowship, it's really hard to stop. But last time people seemed to enjoy a kind of podcast type format, so I've left that in. But if you're the kind of person who doesn't have time to troll through all of those little nuances and details, of which there are many in this conversation that you're about to hear, you can check out the summary. So if you go over to Steam, you can just look down below and I've summarized all of this content for you, gone through and made sure that all of the information you need to know is there. But I would say the context and that sort of stuff is much clearer in the conversation that we have. So check it out if you have the time, for sure. Again, huge thanks to everyone that put in questions. I know there may be some things we didn't get to, but we definitely covered a lot. So there's a bunch of really cool nuggets in there. If you don't know yet, the update that we are working on is Preseason 2, and that update is coming out on February 19th. Everything is on track for that, and we're really, really excited because there's so much stuff coming in. There's so many details and that sort of stuff, and now that the build is in a more shareable state, as of basically today, next week, and the few days at the start of the week after that, we'll be able to show you more and more about what you can expect in that update. So I'm very excited. I hope you are too. Anyway, enjoy this conversation and I will see you all again very soon. All right, so Axel, the first questions that we have today kind of relate to this family around the gem system grind, the kind of RNG, the build flexibility kind of popped up a few times. The only thing we've said on this topic so far is that there's some changes to how socketing and stuff will work in the Preseason 2 update. But can you kind of give us an overview of what we are doing in that gem system that I'm sure these players will want to know about?
Yes. So I need to think a little bit about what things. We've talked a lot about gems. There's going to be some kind of multi-stage rollout to this, where some of these things will happen in Preseason 2. I think the one thing that we are trying to squeeze in for the reset here is some way for your alts to accrue gems a bit faster than your main. So that one, when it comes to the acquirement of gems, we've also found a few funny issues. Apparently, Uruk markets, what was it? Everdawn Uruk markets and Silken Hollow did not drop gems at all, which was a bug that really crept under the radar for us all. So that's fixed. But other than that, a lot of the stuff that's going on with gems is more has to do with the bonuses. And like, for example, the diamond track was fairly lackluster for a lot of heroes. We've updated the bonuses that you get from the gem track, so they're a bit more interesting for most heroes. We've shuffled some stuff around there. Of course, we're doing tuning across the game. In some places, bigger tuning adjustments, and in some cases, smaller. And the same is true for the gem bonuses. Another major thing connected to gems that's happening is that we've updated all of the gem-related major traits on the weapons. So the Sapphire Aura Stone, the Emerald Judgment, the Diamond Strike, which were also kind of lackluster. Now they actually synergize with their gem bonus tracks. So more like Amethyst Splinters, which was always a strong trait, and that one's been toned down a little bit, had a synergy with equipping Amethyst gems because it gives you crit and crit power, which feeds into the Amethyst Splinter. We've come up with some pretty fun and interesting ways to have Sapphire Ore, Stone, Emerald, Judgment, and Diamond Strike also synergize with actually equipping Diamonds, Emeralds, or Sapphires as well. And then finally, we are working to also squeeze in the Legendary Aether. Still finalizing the details on exactly how players acquire that, but it's not going to be something that's dropped all over the place. But the Legendary Aether is a legendary crafting material, which will allow you to add sockets. And I think we mentioned this in the last video too, but that will
I've talked
actually
about this,
also allow you to. Yeah, exactly. So it'll both help players to get their hands on the 35% empowered sockets, because the Legendary Aether will apply a 35% empowered socket on normal armor items. But also, if you can apply a socket to set items as well, so set items can actually have a socket, though when you do it on a set item, they will not be empowered, they will just be normal sockets to just still keep that be an interesting choice. Yeah.
Cool. All right. No, so lots of big changes. Is it safe to say, I mean, obviously, a lot of people talked about that gem grind just being so long. I think people are going to be really happy to hear that we're thinking about making that a bit more streamlined for alts and that sort of things. Outside the bug fixes to drops not happening on 3 of the dungeons now. I didn't even know that. Are there any things to make that gem acquisition any faster than pre-season 1? Or are we happy with the state of that right now?
Yeah, I think I mean we're always testing, but we're just about to enter our kind of major testing phase, if you will. Usually like 2 to 3 weeks before we roll something out, we go into a pretty intense testing and kind of bug fixing, tuning, and polishing phase.
It looks like there might
And
be a
so I think
new build today. Is that the one that we might be testing, behind the scenes? Yeah. Awesome.
internal build.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a new one today. And yeah, I mean, gem acquirement is a part of the tuning. We have heard the feedback. Like, in full transparency, we like that gems are the late game. We don't want to make gems be so fast so that by the time you kind of, if you spend 1 day in Eternal, you're done. We don't want that. We understand that if you have an alt and you've already farmed, kind of fully farmed out your main, we understand that that shouldn't have to take the same amount of time. But just to set everyone's expectations right, we want gems to take time. So maybe it took a little bit too much time in early access. Sure, that that could be possible. So we might tone it down a bit, the amount of time you have to spend on it. But I just don't want to set the wrong expectations, because we do want you to spend some time acquiring your full gem kit.
Yeah, and there's all those other deterministic things that we have in there that were kind of part of that whole loop that people were in. So I think overall it's going to be a very different looking reality once we get into preseason 2. All right, so we've got so many questions to get through, and like I said, I've kind of grouped them into buckets because I want to kind of address topics. One of the biggest ones that kept popping up was people talking about, like, what are the long-term motivations for veteran players once those progression goals are complete? Reasons to come back. Why would preseason 2 be something that they want to look at? I think people kind of felt once they'd kind of reached 10K, they'd gotten to where they wanted on the leaderboards. What kind of things could they look forward to in preseason 2 and in the future?
Right. So I think this is a bit like zooming out time, because I would say preseason 2, this reset is not as focused on kind of the top tier There's definitely stuff happening. So we've done a bunch of changes to. I mean, we've moved things around, right? Like there's a few new weapon traits. There's a few old ones that are gone. We've updated a lot of how the weapon traits work. We've done some pretty big tuning shifts on the weapon abilities. We've adjusted a lot of talents for heroes. We've generally kind of done some big tuning on the general kind of difficulty curve. So, you know, enemy healths, um, gearing and stats, and how those things relate to each other is quite different from how it was in the preseason one, I guess we call it early access. Generally, just quick note on that. Generally, now we have been working towards the game when it gets when a group of players are struggling to keep progressing in Eternal. So now we're just talking about the kind of high end players and hardcore kind of. When you get to that point, it's going to be less about everyone just gets one shot all the time, and more about making the timer. So basically, what we've done is um, players have more survivability generally, but uh, it's going to be a bit tighter to be able to kill all the enemies because the relation of output versus enemy defensives health has been shifted basically.
Hmm.
Um, we've got some new curses. Um, we've retired Malevolent Spirits and Carnage, which both from feedback and internally as well, we thought were the two weakest. We've kept two of the winter event bosses in the normal curse rotation now, so you're going to find the Winter Witch and the Gorn, the
Cool.
MC Hammer Giant, are going to be in as part of the curse rotation baseline. They've been toned down a little bit. I think the Witch gives 90 seconds instead of 3 minutes on the timer, and Gorn gives 20 seconds instead of 60, I think. So like, there's a lot of stuff for sure. And then of course we have the two new heroes as well. There's a lot of stuff there. With that said, this preseason 2, we've been focusing a lot on new players, um, players who we saw during the first preseason were getting stuck or kind of having problems really getting past either Sith role and contender, or they got past that and Adept was just a bit harsh with all the advanced mechanics and how the scaling worked back then. But also because we didn't have a lot of other ways for players to kind
Hmm.
of get comfortable with the gameplay mechanics and kind of their heroes and their kit and stuff like that and unlock stuff. So I'd say we put a lot of focus there for preseason 2. We want more people to see how much fun we think Fellowship is.
Hmm.
And however, for uh, the near future, so I'm talking like what happens the next reset after this reset, there we have a lot more focus on what's going on kind of on the higher end side of
I'm getting nervous.
everything.
We'll definitely talk about that. There's a lot of exciting things that I know that the team are really looking forward to getting into the game. On so
Yep.
just a couple of like specific ones in that regard. I did hear that there was the possibility of another 10K mount coming in. So people have something new to chase. Where are we sitting with that right now?
That is the plan. Yeah. We like once again just want to remind everyone it's early access. We really are careful with where we put our time and energy and focus. So here's a good example of where you may notice that during an early access compared to what expectations we have on ourselves when we get to 1.0 and
Hmm.
beyond. Um, so for preseason 2, we're gonna make sure that there's a new, fresh, and cool mount to chase for the 10K reward. However, we're not going to be updating every single star map node. So that
Hmm.
means that there's, for example, a bunch of hero skins, color variations that you could unlock for the heroes in the star map. Those we are not going to be updating for preseason 2. That basically means if you played Rhyme in preseason 1 and you log into preseason 2, Rhyme will have already unlocked the skins that you did unlock in the star map in the first preseason. However, if you switch over to Elarion and you didn't play Elarion in preseason 1, then you'll be able to unlock the preseason 1 skins during preseason 2 on Elarion as well. And the same goes for mounts. Like, we're not going to update, I think it was 11 mounts in the star map.
Hmm.
And right now, I would expect it's only the 10k mount that we upgrade for preseason 2. And like I said, again, this has to do with priority and kind of making sure we manage our time and focus correctly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
I've talked about that with the community as well. Like right now it's all about making sure that we get the game in the best possible place before we head into 1.0. So we need to make sure that the core systems are all working and awesome, and it will mean that we have to kind of deprioritize some things that will be really important for us post launch. But we also understand that having a nice 10k mount to chase would be fun. So hopefully we can get that in. Also, there was the possibility. I know Will and the team have been working on the inclusion of possibly some titles and account flair and that sort of stuff. I don't know if that's confirmed for the 19th or possibly at some point after the preseason 2 release, but there may be some other things to chase from what I hear. Maybe. I don't know.
Yes. We are wrapping it up. It looks like it's possible that it's in for the 19th. If it's not in for the 19th, it's just going to get released as soon as it is ready. This is kind of a parallel system, so it doesn't need to be in day one for it to work
Hmm.
with all the reset and the kind of progression and all that. But yeah, exactly. We are aiming to get in the profile customization. Very excited about that. I really like the way our team has kind of decided to go with that feature. I think it's a really cool take on more flair, more kind of self-expression
Hmm.
that you can do through your profile customization and the way it shows up and everything. I'm actually really excited about this.
Yeah.
Um, it's once again, set expectations. We're not going to kind of flood that feature with content from the start. We're still talking honestly about exactly how much and how we want to award the various different rewards, and there's a bunch of rewards tied to the profile customization. So we're still talking about that. So we're going to be taking it a bit slow on kind of the amount of rewards initially. So there'll be an initial offering of stuff that you can access there, and then as we get feedback, but also have more time to kind of make sure that we're uh, designing a reward structure there that feels fun and engaging,
Yeah.
we'll kind of keep rolling out the rest of that.
I was going to say this feature
Yeah.
is kind of exactly the kind of thing that makes sense to talk about with the community really openly, because we'll quickly see what kind of aspirational things people want to highlight, whether it's certain achievements in games, certain leaderboard positions, or whatever those things might be. If people have ideas and that sort of stuff, just make sure to throw them at us, because if there's something cool that you want to do in the game and get recognized for it, it'd be great to make sure that you can be recognized for it. Okay,
Yes.
the next kind of one I had, it actually showed up a lot in the Q&A channel. Lots of questions about loadouts. Any kind of future intent for loadouts? Maybe not a preseason 2 thing, but just looking ahead into the future.
Yes. Definitely something we're talking about. Not for preseason 2, but it's on the radar for sure. This ties into gems as well, which we were talking about earlier, which we're aware that it's quite cumbersome if you want to experiment more and try stuff. But also with the weapon traits, for sure, especially in Preseason 1 when there was no way to refund the empowered traits, which made it quite punishing if you wanted to just try another weapon or switch out some traits. It's quite expensive and no way to get it back. So we're definitely talking about that. We do want players to be able to experiment and kind of have fun with all these systems and figure stuff out. So yeah, we're talking about it, not for preseason 2, but it's on the radar.
Yeah, cool. Also, a lot of these questions that I'm looking at now, I'm seeing that we've kind of touched on them a little bit. We talked about some of the ways in which dungeons are going to be moved around, new curses and those sorts of things. We have confirmed that there's no new actual dungeons in this go around. That's something that we'll be doing for future preseasons and other resets. But we didn't get a chance to talk about the capstones. Are those going to be shifted in where they are in the league system? There's some more questions about leagues here, so maybe we can go into that structure a little bit. What's going on with the league structure?
Yes, I think the first thing to talk about when it comes to what's happening with leagues in preseason 2 is that we have removed. So in preseason 1, let me start from the right place here. In preseason 1, it was Contender Capstone, Cithral's Fall, was the first dungeon that would activate the dungeon timer and the advanced enemy mechanics.
I think the timer came at 4, actually. It was Contender 4.
Oh, yeah, that's
randomly.
right. Yeah, timer came at
Yep.
4. Yeah, Cithral had the
Mechanics.
advanced mechanics. So that was Contender 7, Cithral. So we've moved that now. We still kind of like those turning on around Eternal. Currently in the internal build we're going to play today, they actually the timer and the advanced mechanics both activate on Paragon Capstone, which feels right. We're going to be playtesting that a bit now, but it feels right. It feels like that becomes a trial of fire to like get people in on what they're getting themselves into as they get into Eternal. Now we got a lot of when we were talking about this, we got some initial feedback in the community about concerns that the game would become very very simple for the people who do like the challenge, that the game would be boring as you're working through the leagues. Honestly, I gotta say I don't think that's the case. Even like I would say you kind of get used to it pretty quickly, that the advanced mechanics are not active when you get into Adept, when you get into Champion. But even as we were getting into Paragon, like we were still wiping on packs, and there's still challenge to be had, and you can always go up in difficulty if you want challenge. And actually, like, yeah, surprisingly so. So
when
advanced mechanics still for sure do add more complexity, and especially it adds more need for coordination, because the advanced mechanics are usually the kind of abilities that you need to keep interrupted, CC'd, or use cooldowns to kind of work through. So it does still do that, but yeah, surprisingly, the kind of challenge part surprisingly holds up, but with less complexity through the leagues. Really excited to get that in everyone's hands and kind of see if everyone agrees. But that was our takeaway from it. This also means that our hope is a lot more players are going to get into Eternal, and that's good for everyone because that means we get better Eternal queues as well. And there's also going to be a much clearer distinction between when you're playing Eternal compared to when you're playing in the leagues, because Eternal does now have that added complexity across the dungeons, enemies, and bosses.
So sorry, Axel,
you had a question
just to
there,
clarify.
Hamish?
Yeah. To clarify, I understand the timer getting pushed back to Paragon Capstone. Is that also the case with the advanced mechanics as well?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to clarify that.
Both.
I might have brushed over that one a little bit. Cool. I think it's great to try out. It'd be good to get feedback from. I know a lot of people that will be watching this video are kind of more tailored towards our, many hours played, more hardcore players, because you're still engaged with the game and that's awesome. But if there are people out there who have, maybe bounced at that adept wall and in preseason 1, love to hear everyone's feedback on this kind of thing, especially once we get into preseason 2 and seeing where we are. Were we too far one way? Have we gone too far the other way? Do we need to end up in the middle? We'll see. This is going to be a really, really exciting change to check out. Also, there was one other, I did talk about this with the community, and it is kind of related to the league structure, but there was a new ascension that showed up in a build recently. Can you talk us through what this is and why we're trying it out now?
Yes. Yeah, there is a new ascension that is active from the very start, so Contender 1 all the way up to Paragon Capstone, which is a new ascension that we call the Pathfinder's Guidance. And Pathfinder's Guidance will highlight enemies in the adventure dungeon that you're doing to kind of guide you through not the most optimal, but a straightforward path that will ensure that you get 100% kill score and find the boss in the dungeon. And this is, like I was talking about earlier, this is part of the focus on helping people who are new to the genre, new to this game format, to feel more comfortable jumping in, especially those who play tanks. We do think this is going to help everyone, though. So what you'll see when you start playing in Contender as you get into preseason 2 is anytime you start a dungeon, some enemies will have like a bluish glow and a kind of blue little pillar that kind of fades up towards the sky above them. And it's up to you. Like, you don't have to just pull the enemies with Pathfinder's Guidance. If you don't want to, you can still play whatever route you want to. However, you will get some benefits as long as you're in combat with enemies with the Pathfinder Guidance mark on them. We're still tuning and trying this out, so heads up, numbers may change. But currently what we're doing is, as long as any player is in combat with an enemy that has the Pathfinder's Guidance mark, they will gain 20% haste flat in Contender, and in Adept 15%, Champion 10%, Paragon 5%. So this is a buff that's kind of going to taper off as you gear up and the higher you get into the leagues. And then, of course, by Paragon Capstone, this ascension is turned off, and it is always turned off in Eternal. And the intention here is, part of it is making sure that new players have enough haste where the game feels nice, because we all know this, like any RPG, it's always a bit slow when you start a new character, and it starts to feel really good after a while when you get some stats. And that's the case with Fellowship as well, as it is a game with stats, and haste is a very big part of that sluggishness that you can feel at the very start. Of course, this also helps groups who have been randomly matched together to kind of incentivize them to stick to the Pathfinder's Guidance route, to create less confusion and honestly less need for communication lower down in the leagues. Now, we still want players to get into a place where communication is kind of part of playing Fellowship, and we are working on features that are going to support that more. And until we do, this is something we want to try out to see if it simplifies getting into the game. And like I said, it tapers off, and then when you get to Eternal, we're back to figuring stuff out on your own.
Perfect. All right, that sounds really good. I've got another whole chunk here. I know a lot of people are asking for, like, when patch notes, right? And because we'll be working on things right up until we're ready to, push the build out, those patch notes will come, before the update goes live, but probably as close to it as we can potentially manage, because anything we give you now in terms of notes will definitely change as we go through testing. But Axel, since I do have you here,
Yep.
hero balance and like the meta kind of shake up that you want to see happen in preseason 2. Um, how do you feel? Where do you want things to go? Which underperformers are you focused on? Those sorts of things. What's your 2 cents on that?
Yes. I think, like, on a very high level, I think, like I was saying, a big shift that's happening on the difficulty curve with enemies being tougher, but players also means less one shots, uh, which also means potentially a bit less focus needed on the high end play on just purely defensive and like only like do we survive this mechanic or not, and that's what's going to decide if we can do it. Rather want to push that over to how do we squeeze out as much damage as we possibly can to get through this on time, because that's actually the bigger problem right now.
Mhm.
With that shift, that's going to be affecting a bunch of builds. I think one example is the Mara Bleed build, which is a build that, due to the mechanics and dots, is going to be, it's going to help that build, just that fights take a little bit longer than they did before. We had a very bursty balancing across the board in preseason 1. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out across all the kind of builds and legendaries and heroes. Um, so that's kind of on a bigger side. Then if I go into heroes, like I would say if I start with roles, one thing that we want to do is make sure that melee damage dealers have a little bit higher maximum potential than any ranged player, because melee damage dealers have to be right in there glued to the enemies, which means there's a lot of mechanics that force them eventually to kind of pause, basically take a step back, wait, and then go in again. There's a lot of boss mechanics that you just have to kind of run out from stuff and then get back. So melee damage dealers tend to have lower potential uptime on in combat compared to ranged. So we want to compensate for that. So looking at, like, if everyone had 100% uptime, melee damage dealers should be a little bit higher than any ranged player. And we also think that Elarion needs to be toned down a little bit. No, he was just generally the strongest damage dealer after we made the shifts, the tuning to him and fixes to him during
Yeah.
preseason 1. But there is another thing with Elarion, which is he is always mobile and always ranged, which means he's the hero that has the absolute highest chance that you're actually doing your rotation 100% of the time throughout the
Mhm.
entire dungeon. There's very little that stops him from doing his stuff, which means the maximum potential of Elarion needs to be just a little bit below Rhyme and Ardeos as well. So
Mhm.
this is something that we're looking at. There's builds on top of this, so this is where, like, I mean, this is why I love working on and designing games like this. But this is where complexity comes in, because then there's the question of, like, okay, but what if I go single target build with Ilarion? Should I suffer as much? Because that means I'm already doing less damage in AoE. There's a bunch of interesting questions here. We're talking about it. We're having, deep dives constantly internally about this. But that was just to give you a gist of, like, here is a high level thing that we're looking at in terms of damage dealers.
Mm. No, I think it's
Um,
fun. I like a meta shift, right? Like it's new things for people to learn. It's new things to try out. Um, Tariq, my boy, what's anything there? Oh, heavy strike. We've kind of talked about. I've played
yeah,
around with it a little bit on some of our test builds. Um,
yep,
it's changed a couple of times. What's the current heavy strike design?
yes. Good. I'm gonna I'm gonna start with a caution. We With the current state, if things don't change between now and preseason 2 launch, the current state of Tariq would have us change the difficulty stars on him to 5 for sure. He is going to be one of the hardest players to perform well with. And this is due to some changes we did to Heavy Strike and Facebreaker, because right now you can fail with both Heavy Strike and Facebreaker, and when you fail, it's severely punishing to your output. And by fail, I mean if you ever press Facebreaker when does not have the proc, it's going to be on a 9-second cooldown, and it deals very little damage, and it resets the swing timer. And if you ever press Heavy Strike when you're not in the red zone of the swing timer, Heavy Strike goes on a 9-second cooldown, and it does very little damage. So the reason for this is, one, the way that Tariq's mechanics were working before. One was a quality of life thing, actually, which we got feedback on, which had to do with Heavy Strike, where the queue system that we had for Heavy Strike, and the way it worked meant that if you ever needed to press an interrupt or fear or a leap during the animation of the Heavy Strike, you would actually cancel the Heavy Strike, which meant you didn't get any damage out of it. And we've addressed that. So now Heavy Strike is instant cast. You can no longer queue it. You just have to press it when you're in the red zone on the swing timer. So that was quality of life. The other part is that a lot of people figured out that if you just macro every single ability in Tariq's kit to also press Facebreaker, then you never have to think about Facebreaker. And if you always macro Heavy Strike to Q after pressing any ability, then you never have to press Heavy Strike. So people could play without ever pressing Heavy Strike and Facebreaker and would perform it perfectly. We did not like this.
No, I was not
Because
macroing
Tariq,
it. Yeah, but like even though I wasn't macroing it, I was doing that every time. The dance, like just
Yep.
every input would end with a Heavy Strike, and it was
Yeah.
yeah.
And honestly, because I have not played Tariq like that. I've played him as intended, which means I'm reacting to Heavy Strike and procking. And it's a very fun gameplay. I argue Tariq's gameplay is very fun and engaging if you did not macro or just automatically press Facebreaker every time. So now you can't. If you try to macro Heavy Strike and Facebreaker, you will do 10 damage across the dungeon. It's going to be extremely punishing.
Love that.
You're going to miss a Heavy Strike because the Heavy Strike is going to be a cooldown when the swing timer comes up the next time. So now people need to actually react to the procs and the swing timer and press the buttons manually. We've been playing it, me and a couple of others in the office. We've been playing the new Tariq. It works really well. The punishing part, honestly, maybe a couple of times per adventure. So it's not as bad as it sounds. And I think Tariq is a lot more fun like this.
Any changes to the execute stuff? The
On what do you mean? A culling strike?
Yeah, on the culling strike. Just that window.
No.
Staying the same?
No.
Okay.
It's the same, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, this isn't a Tariq video. I'm just excited about what's coming.
Yeah.
We'll have to do another video. We got a lot of questions about kind of server stuff. One of the things that I've kind of mentioned, it's been brushed over on Discord a little bit. But as people know, we've changed publishers recently. We had relationships with our previous publisher where we were doing some server stuff with them. We've had to redo a lot of things. So we are going in with our stuff into preseason 2, I think. Is that most accurate, Axel, or are we still kind of transitioning?
We are transitioning, but we're up and running. So, I guess full transparency again, it's one of those cases where we're going to go in with the new setup. And if things start breaking and then there is a way for us to kind of back out and analyze what's happened.
Yeah.
But it's looking good, so we're feeling good about it. And also, just to take the opportunity here, I'm not sure I've actually commented in any of these videos, but just want to say too, very excited to be working with Coffee Stain. I mean, we've known about them for quite a while. They're a Swedish outfit, and really impressed with the kind of games that has been that they have shepherded through. So yeah, it's exciting times for Fellowship for sure.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun
Very cool.
getting to know them. I mean, if you had long enough string, you could do like one of those string telephones to Coffee
Yeah.
Stain across
Yeah.
Sodamal, and then yeah, that would work really well. Um, what else do we have in here? We've talked about well, we kind of talked about the melee versus range stuff, progression, pacing. I'm just trying to think what else we can get to here. I do want to end, and if this makes it into the video or not will depend on how kind of close it gets to too many spoilers. So I'd like to keep it very top level because we've actually gone through a lot of most of these questions. But we have two new heroes that surprisingly people didn't ask a lot of questions about. We're still honing in on exactly what their names will be. They were code names Sunna and Lisa. Those have changed. Feels like we're getting closer to what their names will be. But can we just do a very, very quick top level design intent discussion for each of them? We haven't actually really gone into any detail on where, let's say Sunna and Lisa, just because those code names are out there. But let's start with Sunna. Where does he fit in the tank roster? What, without being specific about the abilities, what makes him different from Helena and Mako, for example?
Yes. So with Sune, we wanted to design a tank that had a different way of managing defensives and that was a support tank. So that had quite a bit of ways to help others in the group as well. Mako and Helena are not completely, but they're heavily, I should say, focused on themselves and keeping themselves alive. They have control, like stuns and pulls and stuff like that. Grand Melee, best button in the game.
Yep.
So they have ways to help the team, but here we're talking a much more direct support stuff. So Sune can heal allies. He has cooldowns where he can potentially save the team, although he's always going to have to make the decision if he needs to save the team or if he needs to save himself or keep himself alive. And he plays, I would say, fairly aggressively, but he is a lot more dependent on managing cooldowns, and positioning is a big part of his kit as well. While Helena and Mako don't have any positioning requirements in regards to their mechanics. It's more about positioning enemies. All tanks need to work with that.
Mhm.
But Suna has more positional things to think about as well.
Do any of those positional things relate to how your teammates will play differently, or is that part of the equation?
I mean, that's where we get into talents. So he can decide that there are certain, like, he'll be able to create sanctuaries which he should stand in, and there will be talent builds where it's beneficial for the group to stand in his sanctuaries as well. But that's going to depend a bit on how you want to build him. You can build him kind of very procy style, where he feels a lot like playing a DPS with a lot of procs going on. You can play him more heavily into this zone placement kind of style, and then there's a few other builds too.
Cool. All right. I can't wait for people to see it. I'm actually hoping that when these new builds start coming, that it feels ready, that we can start getting some possible gameplay capture, and then I can start getting that out to people. So hopefully very soon I can, maybe do a run through of a dungeon on each of these heroes, and we can take a look at how it works. All right. So Lisa, her healing style, very different from Sylvie and Vigor. How?
Stagger. I'm just gonna spoil
yeah.
that.
No, please. I was going there anyway.
Yes. So Lisa has she's a time manipulator, and she manipulates time, and she can make time behave differently. So whenever you take damage, if you're in a group with Lisa, a big portion of that damage is going to be spread out over time. So this basically means when you have Lisa in the party, it's like everyone, as everyone is taking damage, it's like everyone is building up this giant damage over time effect. So what happens is, because it's a big portion of any damage that the party members are taking, it means that the health bars move a lot slower, because you're not taking full damage, but you're building up this damage over time effect that just gets bigger and bigger, which means the health bar starts moving very quickly after a while. And a lot of Lisa's mechanics is about managing this damage over time effect, which is, in the current build at least, we're still working through final naming on a lot of things, but now it's called Beacon of Time. So Beacon of Time is, because Lisa, actually, her weapon is that she has this hourglass that floats around her. And that is the Beacon of Time. So this is helping to kind of manage how wounds are affecting people around her. So yeah, basically the party's health bars is moving slower, but they're building up a huge damage over time, and Lisa uses her rotation abilities and cooldowns to both heal players, but also to cleanse away this damage over time effect from Beacon of Time. And the healing that she does is all through damage. So any damage that she deals, a portion of that will also heal allies that are affected by Beacon of Time, which is a large radius. It's not something that you really need to think about. Like, it's large enough that it'll kind of manage itself. What I mean is, you don't need to position for it. But yeah, so she does she plays a lot like a DPS character, but she needs to keep an eye on the Beacon of Time damage and make sure that she's using spenders not only on damage, but she actually has to clear away some of that to keep everyone healthy.
Yeah, so I obviously, because of my time zone, it's been a little bit tricky to get on an actual kind of team session with anyone. Didn't have to worry about that. I jumped into the forest meadow the other day, played around with some of Lisa's abilities, and I'm like, oh, okay. Now I kind of see where we're going with this. It's really, really, really cool. So people will be able to see that really soon. And the forest meadow as well. We'll be doing a preview of that shortly. I know a lot of stuff.
Placeholder name.
Yes, it is a placeholder name. We actually haven't decided, but that's what it's called in the game right now. Could be called something else entirely. We'll see.
Stillbrook Farmsteads. We don't know, but that is a placeholder name, just to call it out. Yeah.
Cool. The other last thing I have on here, and I don't want to spend much time on it because we're talking about preseason 2 right now. And also, I didn't expect this to be an hour-long video, but here we are.
Here we are.
You asked for content, so here you go. You'll regret it. All right. There's a big thing here, future direction of the game. We're talking about preseason 2 today, so I don't want to go too far into this, but you've said some things to me recently that I found particularly interesting. So we obviously will be doing resets and those sorts of things going forward. I know that you have some desires to do some things that we haven't touched on before. Obviously, there'll be new heroes and things that we're looking at. You said that you want to do a weird hero. I'm just going to call it out. So we can expect something weird in the future?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait. I don't know about expect.
You have a desire to stretch your design legs, so to speak. Yes.
We have a hero that has gotten pretty far along art production wise, but that we really wanted to go for a healer and tank for preseason 2. So and then yeah, that one is not a weird hero. But we
I've
definitely want to
spoilers.
do a weird hero as well. Yep.
I've kind of already talked about Gundet a little bit.
Ah, cool. So Gunda is pretty far along.
Yeah,
Um, Plan to be a melee DPS,
yeah.
and we want to do a weird hero, a ranged DPS. We've got all kinds of weird ideas for the time being, but when we say weird, we mean basically non-humanoid, and
Hmm.
hopefully something unexpected and quirky but surprisingly charming. I guess that's what we're hoping
Yeah.
for.
So, you know, I see
But
what
yeah,
you're
we're very
getting at.
excited about doing heroes that are outside of the expectations of the format, because we have an opportunity, because we're doing heroes, we can do all kinds of stuff, and
Hmm.
we think that that's something that could really set Fellowship apart and make Fellowship um, very interesting over the long term, in that it's not just doing more humans and dwarves and elves, but we're actually starting to experiment with some wacky stuff as well.
Hmm.
I'm really excited about that.
That's going to be really, really cool. And then, yes, I mean, I see a question here. People are like, oh, you know, will we ever have other things? We've said before we'd love to do raids and stuff in the future. Well, you
Yes,
know,
we
we'll,
want to do
we
raids.
want to do raids. That's still the same.
Confirmed, we
That's
want to.
we want to do raids. Um, but yeah,
I
there's
think that there's a like on the topic in that discussion internally. We want to make sure that when we get to doing raids, we want to make sure we do that justice, and we're trying to balance, like, okay, so adding more adventures and capstone dungeons is kind of in the same production. Uh, it's work for the same team as the raid production. So this is just to give you some insight. Like, we really want to explore raids. We think that could be really exciting. Um, but when we choose to do that, we would probably have a bit less on the new adventures and capstones for that update. So this is kind of things that we're
Mhm.
talking about, or new game modes, because game modes is in that same kind of bucket too. So it's a balancing act of, like, new game mode. We might have a really cool idea or something that we see suits really well for the game's current state. We want to get to doing more adventures and capstones. We really love making adventures and capstones and bosses, and we want to explore more um, types of like factions and enemy races and like weird owl people, whatever. We want to do all kinds of stuff there too, but then we are really excited about doing raids as well. Um, yeah, so balancing.
Perfect. There's one other, I mean, I was planning to wrap up there, but I did see one other thing. People asked about cosmetics and those sorts of things. You know, are we planning to do more? There's obviously more cosmetics going into the game because we have the in-game store going in pre-season 2, so people will be able to, if they want, to buy vanity stuff there. There's some mounts and cosmetics. We don't yet have weapon skins. That's something that people have been asking about a lot, Axel. Is that something we would like to do in the future?
Already in the plan, not for the 19th, but that's an example of something like with profile customization that we potentially will have release mid season.
Mm.
Um, we also would like weapon skins.
Yeah, I mean,
So
yeah.
yes, and it is actually in the plan. There's just some work that we need to do, and it didn't make it for the 19th. But like I said, it might come during preseason 2.
All right. All right. Thanks, Axel. I'm going to let you, I was going to say let you go to bed, but we're actually flipped this time around. I'm going to go to bed.
I'm gonna go playtest.
You go get on with your day.
I got some Lisa healing to do today.
Oh, man. Well, that'll be fun. All
Yeah,
right. I'm going to try and
yeah.
get some sleep and get up. Hopefully, you're still testing when I get up in the morning and we can blast some content. All right. Thank you very much, Axel, for joining me.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, I wasn't actually planning on popping back in here at the end of the video, but if you did make it to the end, you're an absolute beast. So thanks for sticking around. I did have an idea while I was kind of putting this together, and just follow me down this rabbit hole. I'm assuming if you've made it to the end of this video, you really want to play the new update, and that's awesome. Maybe you have some friends that you want to convince to come along with you. If so, please leave a comment below on YouTube in the comments and let me know what you're most looking forward to, and I'm going to pick someone to send a full set of codes out to, so you can put together a full group to attack preseason update 2. How does that sound? Hopefully we can get some people who want to come and join us. All right, I'll leave it there. I will see you again really, really soon. The update's coming. Bye.